When most of us order a burger or chicken nuggets from a fast food restaurant, there is no thought put into how that meal is created. We know that meat comes from animals and that animals come from farms, but how many of us actually know what this looks like? How Americans obtain meat could be controversial to many. Some argue that it is not humane or sustainable, whereas others claim it is the only effective way to feed the ever-growing population. Overall, it is safe to say that there are both negative and positive aspects of factory farming. Today, we will be taking a look at both of them, as well as alternatives to see if there are realistic possibilities for our future. To begin, let me give you a brief overview of what factory farming actually is. Factory farming is the term coined for the process of industrializing agriculture. This means that the same plants and animals are raised in giant facilities to produce more yield at a lower cost than traditional farming. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, factory farming is defined as a farm on which large numbers of livestock are raised indoors in conditions intended to maximize production at minimal cost. As population sizes continue to skyrocket and countries begin to develop, the demand for meat increases. For example, according to Pahar in the Journal of Agricultural and Environmental Ethics, China's demand for meat doubles every 10 years. Pahar also claims that the United Nations Population Division estimates that there will be 9 billion people on the planet by 2050. Industrialization of farming was the quickest and cheapest way to keep up with these demands. Americans have especially mastered this practice of industrialized animal husbandry. For reference, Americans produce nearly 25% of the world's meat, despite us only making up around 4% of the population. And 10.378 billion U.S. land animals were slaughtered for food in 2007, according to Pahar in the Journal of Agricultural and Environmental Ethics. Now that we have a general idea of the practice, we can look at both advantages and disadvantages of factory farming. The first advantage to industrialized farming is that it has been researched to where farmers are guaranteed as much profit as possible. According to Tsai, Ruki, and others in the PLOS-1, farmers who venture into free-range systems do not have the advantage of well-documented and researched practices. Industrial farming has been studied down to a direct science, so it prevents certain issues that arise with free-range production. Martin, Allen, and others in sustainability also mention the difficulty of gathering research, including low reliability as well as high costs. Factory farming is the only way we can produce enough accessible and affordable food for the Earth's population. In PLOS-1, they claim that even at current levels, the only way to sustain meat consumption is to industrialize its production. Overall, industrialized farming is simply the most efficient way of raising animals in this day and age. The main issue that individuals have with factory farming is that one of morality. Broad in Agricultural and Human Values claim that 81% of surveyed U.S. adults offer support for the animal protection movement's goal to minimize and eventually eliminate all forms of animal cruelty and suffering. Animals are packed together in small and often unsanitary facilities, living in very poor conditions. According to Pahar in the Journal of Agricultural and Environmental Ethics, researchers concluded that the current animal food industry is quite simply unacceptable due to its effects on humans, the environment, and animals raised for food. Cattle produce methane, and when they are in excessive numbers of cows living in a specific area, it can pollute both the surrounding air and water. This is just one example of the negative effects that factory farming can have on the environment. Because the system is not perfect, many people have been looking at different alternatives to factory farming that could be used in the future. If people do not want to support the current methods of farming animals, then they can choose to not eat meat. However, this is not ideal for everyone because some people cannot afford the dietary restrictions, for example, people who are anemic. Broad in Agriculture and Human Values claim that animal rights abolitionists like legal theorist Gary Francione argue that humans have no moral justification for using non-humans at all, and he urges advocates to focus their efforts on strict veganism combined with creative, non-violent education as the primary strategy to build a grassroots political movement. Another option is to go back to former methods of farming. According to Peterson in the Journal of Agriculture and Human Values, traditional management systems that worked for millennia were becoming obsolete and often forgotten in the few decades under the onslaught of modern agricultural practices that emphasize uniformity in both method and crops. Even new methods of growing crops, such as the vertical farming described by Zhang and others, the feasibility analysis could help improve the agricultural systems that we have in place today. Overall, the way we grow meat most likely will not go under any major changes in the near future. However, it is very possible for the way we produce food to be completely different one day. It can be interesting to learn